got fire in my bones. I'm burdened with the black heart and cursed to roam. I feel the sunshine, it's cold on my face. Forbidden fruit on my tongue, it's sweet to the taste. And you can try and kill me, try and gun me down. Shoot your pistol at me, I laugh at the sound. And as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll come out of the valley without shadow's last breath. And when St. Pete comes to call, there'll be no fear in my eyes. Let the reaper come find me, there'll be trouble on the rise. Well, I was born in a crack in the earth, raised by the lightning and baptized in the dirt. And as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I come out of the valley without shadow's last breath. And when St. Pete comes to call, there'll be no fear in my eyes. Let the reaper come find me, there'll be trouble on the rise. Well, there'll be trouble on the rise. There'll be trouble on the rise. Well, there'll be trouble on the rise. Well, there'll be trouble on the rise. We are the ones that are and are not. Leave the lies and live in secrets. These cages where they always keep us. We're told that our mistakes are all that we are. The cost that comes with giving up. Walk away from it all. Should we just give up? We are the blind, we are the lost. Run from all our mistakes. When we turn away, we are the blind, we are the lost. We give away, but then we keep it. We create a distance while we're with you. Gravity pushes us away. Never seemed to make a lot of sense. We never really understood the fact that gravity pushes us away. Walk away from it all. Should we just give up? We are the blind, we are the lost. Run from all our mistakes. When we turn away, we are the blind, we are the lost. Gravity's
Look at that. It looks like we're live. I think that's wonderful. How's everybody doing?
Well, on yourselves.
Superb. CS greetings, CSGOers, and greetings to my esteemed co-host Profeci, and of course our special guest Kazamir. How are you doing?
Right on yourself.
See, that's the second time I asked it, and you answered it the second time as well. So that was terrible. I'm sorry. It's a South African thing, though.
Good.
I mean, it's amazing wherever you go in the world. South Africans, when you ask them how you doing, and you ask them again a few times, they keep answering with "I'm good," and "How are you?" or "I'm alright," and "How are you?" It's this endless loop that we get into. We're so polite in South Africa. And then there's the Americans who just put the phone down on you. Some of us, yes, this is true. It's definitely not a blanket statement. But hey, Ash, good of you to join us. I hope you're enjoying your new headset. Thanks to Aperture PC, the proud sponsors of CSGO Deeper. Hope that it's going to make a difference to your life. And if not, you can give them to me. I'll take them. So yeah, thanks to Aperture PC and Red Dragon, of course, distributed by Syntech. Very cool of them to do that. And I think it's very cool of Kazamir to be here with us because he's actually got an ESEA game at 8, the only ESEA game scheduled for today in general, and he's still coming on the show. So we'll try to get through it.
It's a funny story with our team, to be honest. That just ESEA games pop out of nowhere. It's just like, oh, hey, we have a game now. And it's like, oh, shit, okay, well, none of us knew about it.
It is on a schedule, just saying, you know.
No, but no one else gets it, but the schedule. So
I'll send you a link, and you'll never be in a place of not knowing again.
Save me, Mark. Save me.
I'll see what I can do. So, looking at what we got to talk about this week, I think the interesting things will obviously be IBA Power Masters if we talk about what's actually happened. We've had ESL Pro League happening, and then there's of course IEM Oakland starting in a couple of hours, which I think is pretty exciting to talk about. I'm really keen for that tournament, but I think a good place to start would actually be with you, Mr. Kazamir. And usually I do the I guess interviewing, so to speak, but I'd actually like to invoke the name of Profeci and get him to ask a few of these things. Are you up for it, Prof?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose we can bounce it between us, but
curveball thrown. Sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, Kazamir, the first place that I heard of you at the very least was in the White Rabbit Gaming Academy team. Like, what is that? Like, what is the idea behind the Academy team? Was it actually like a, is it like they planning for you guys to step up to the next level, or was it just like an extra team that they created almost as like a second team if they ever needed it type thing?
I think it was more so to grow the community more than like looking for a feeder team into like the top team. Like, it happened how many years ago? Like, I think 2 years ago. 2 years ago, it was WRG Academy. That was when I was with Saviv, Pac-Man, Tripwire, and I think it was SS. I can't really remember the lineup. But I mean, yeah, no, it wasn't really much of a feeder system. It was like, okay, yeah, we get a few like practices with the top, like with WRG, the main team. They taught us like this, and this. But obviously, going into it as like a player coming up, you're like, oh no, I'm good enough. But meanwhile, you're not really good enough, but I'm good enough to be in the main team. And that whole debate starts with all of that. And it was, just thinking back on it, it's just funny, like coming to, like learning from back then when I first started to now. Like it's crazy to think how I was with egotistical and stuff. Yeah.
Hey, wait, I want to jump in there. I remember how you were. I do. You're a much better guy now. You really are.
Yeah, I know. I've changed quite a bit, so.
Lot of personal growth.
Okay, I mean, just following on from that, you said like that you guys got to play with the main team. Do you think that that's something that other orgs should look into? Is like maybe picking up a academy teams and just, not necessarily farming the players, but at least prepping them so that they, you don't just hit this wall where, okay, you finally make masters and all of a sudden you're playing against, like elite level opponents and they're kind of wrecking you off the map without you really ever understanding. Obviously you're going to be playing them in like scrims and you might catch them in the odd online tournament, but do you think there is value in playing for an academy team if teams create them?
obviously there is value. Like it's teaching the community, it's letting them grow, it's doing all of this for it. But it's also a big ask from MGOs because I mean they have to focus on Dota, they need to focus on CS:GO, and then now they have an up and coming CS:GO team which they have to constantly track. Sometimes provide some sort of money to help them with, oh, you need to accommodation if you get to this LAN, you need this and this. Like yes, it's good exposure for the MJ as well because they get to attend like DGC and like the other LAN, not just the Masters event that's just closed off and stuff. And it also like allows them to qualify for like smaller things like ESEA or like I think it's OCS or Arena.
Yes.
But yeah, that allows them to qualify and stuff. But it's also like it's a 50-50 between like, oh, should we teach these people and like let them know like this and this, but can we provide the full like backing to this team if they need something from us, which is I think is a big ask now, especially because SA is still growing, so like they need to focus on their Dota and CS. I don't think they need to have like another team. Like yes, it doesn't stop us from teaching other teams. Like okay, we take say for a second div team under WRG, for instance, and then we just show them like, okay, maybe once or twice a week, we're like, okay, send us your demos. This is what you guys need to focus on. This and this, like type of thing. But like to an extent to where an MJ needs to provide for that team, I don't think it's realistically possible at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it does also help if you, like for you now, obviously on the main academy, on the main team, it would be nice to have just like a dedicated scrim partner. I mean, yeah, they might not be the best, but you guys can at least like dry run strats against them. And in theory, you wouldn't have those strats getting out into the wild because you've played like, an APG or something like that where it might be like, oh, did you check the strat that White Rabbit Gaming ran? And it's meant to be sort of secret thing. Do you think that has any value? Like maybe picking them, like you said, picking up a second div team just to sort of dry run strats against them?
That makes a lot of sense, actually, now that you think about it. I didn't think it in that way. No, I think it definitely makes sense because majority of teams, like when it comes to coming up to an event, they don't really have many teams that they can dry run their strats against, because even if you dry run your strats against like a second div team or something, like it won't necessarily be the same reaction to if you had to dry run it against like a Masters team or like an EN or BVD type of thing, because they don't anti-flash, they don't molly, they don't smoke off, they don't try and take control back, whereas EN or BVD, if you take control, like say if you take B plat control for Cobble, they will definitely take it back from you if you don't keep it. If you don't keep people there, they will take it back and they'll get that information, whereas a second div team, they'll be too skittish to kind of go forward. And I think it would make sense for us to like dry run strats, but it wouldn't give us the accurate information in terms of the strat will work or not.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair. It's just I asked that question because obviously that was like one of those famous things that SK did, where they would play like, I mean, not a very good team in America, but they would still play against them. And like all they would do is they just tell that team, okay, all we're going to be doing all day long is we're going to be doing A executes and just seeing how they reacted. And then, once they knew, okay, we've landed every single thing the way that we want to, and then they can like maybe start working on the next level up in, an actual competitive game. It's just, I wanted to see, because obviously you've played on the other end where it's like you're up against the better team, and the better team is the one having to, inform you, maybe try this, maybe try that type of thing.
Yeah, but even when we were up against like the better WRG team, like at the start it got to a point where it was just like, okay, these oaks are actually doing their things correctly, and then it just got to like a troll fest where everyone would buy noob cannons and stuff and shotguns, and it's just like, okay, well, they're still wrecking us and we can't do anything.
That is the worst, though, hey, when you're an upcoming team, and it's like, I mean, I remember, I think it was Emerald Masters 2 years ago playing against Bravado for the first time. Still had lighters in the team, and I think it was Arachno as well back then. And we were playing on Dust 2, and like after about round 6 or 7, when they realized, wow, we're way better than these guys, auto shotties come out, all of that sort of stuff. I think we got like 6 rounds in the end, which we were pretty proud of. We thought we weren't going to get any, so I mean you can take a positive out of it, but it's difficult. I mean, for you, Kazamir, I mean, you came just to recap for the guys who are just joining us. You came from the WRG Academy team and have almost come full circle into the full WRG team over the course of a year and a half, maybe just a little bit longer. So, I mean, we'll talk about the team now, but you were also in F3 for a bit, as the sub. You were with APG. I mean, we met at the Masters LAN in the middle of the year. you're in Pulse and you guys won the Maverick Challenge. I mean, you've been around a bit. You're like the village bicycle, man.
Yeah, no, like I'd say for me, it's like where everything started in terms of growth and learning about the game and actually getting better at the game was when I joined F3 with James and Ash and all of those guys. Like I learned a hell of a lot from those guys, especially like with being humble and opinionated and stuff. Like all of that stuff kind of dropped when I joined F3, and I just learned a lot from the guys when I was in F3. So yeah, I really do appreciate that, especially with James coming forward and asking me to like sub for them. Because if I didn't join that, I don't think I'd be like where I am now. But I mean, then I went to APG with Kasparov, Abson, Crucifier, and Tavo, I believe. That was the lineup in the middle of the year. That team was more like that. That was more like of a team of like, okay, cool. We can actually do something as a lineup, but then heads started hitting together. Like obviously the whole famous thing of, oh, how can you play with Abson? How can you do this, and this? Like it rings true because like he's a very stubborn person and he's set in his ways. So me being that type of person as well, like obviously you're gonna butt heads with the guy. Like it's just something that you not gonna be able to come past. So I ended up leaving them, and then I joined Pulse with my ex-WRG Academy team mates, which was Zaviv and Pac-Man, and then it was Jean and Keegan. And then in Pulse, the first like couple of weeks went well, and then we sort of like started figuring out, oh no, there's a ground between one of the players and us. Like we checked everyone, it was like, okay, this person, and it just ended up being like none of us could really get the support we needed and stuff from Jean. Like don't get me wrong, though, he's an excellent player, he's a really decent player, but it just didn't fit in the team. So then we ended up picking up Sharon, and then like I think 2 weeks after that we ended up playing like in the Maverick Challenge, and we ended up winning it, which was great. And then we played Rage. Things kind of fell through the floor. We didn't
let's be honest, you guys did have the hardest possible game at that tournament right out the gate, right?
But like the thing is as well, like we did do some sort of anti-stratting against them, but like it didn't really go to plan. Like with DC's Cobblestone A execute, there was a plan that I said to the guys that we should do. Like as well, Sharon also mentioned it. Like with DC, if they show presence somewhere at a specific time, they'll go to the other side of the map if they're going to go there, or they won't, and they'll stay there. And we need to look for info, which we didn't do. On their A execute as well, they did a smoke by door, they did a smoke heaven, and then they just mollied out the site completely. And like Oaks were just stuck in mollies because we didn't play aggressive enough towards the mid of A and that type of stuff. But also like the retake that we had in mind was that someone had to, like, as someone takes contact on the A site, someone needed to throw a flashbang over the A doors and then push through that smoke and kill the guy ramp. Because my job in the mid ramp was to kill one and then get traded. If I got lucky, I'd kill two, but it didn't end up happening. And then VNR, we kind of got our leg, and then we got the tactical pause came in, and then it just killed us. Like that was it, I think, for us for that tournament. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I think going out to the team that eventually came second and to the team that came first is, I think it's difficult to say where you guys were. I mean, it was what, best of one against DC. Was it a best of one against Veneration as well?
No, best of three against Veneration. I think it was Mirage and I can't remember the second map. Yeah, I can't remember the second map that we played them.
PTSD kicking in, yeah, or what? After that.
Yeah, getting the shakes and.
Can't remember. It's just gone. It's gone. Well, I mean, maybe also focusing on your IGL aspect. You were doing that in Pulse, and as far as I know, you hadn't done that before in any of the other teams. And you're not doing it now in WOG. That's Zio, but as an in-game leader, it was interesting for me to see how hard you were actually fragging in Pulse, considering you're the in-game leader. Were you setting yourself up a little bit like a Shox would, or a Nico when he was in Mouse Sports? Were you trying to get the team to work around you to get frags for yourself, or was it just sort of coming naturally within the game plan?
See, the thing that I had with Pulse was they made it very easy for me to IGL at times, and sometimes they made it very hard for me to IGL at times. But it was more so the role that I played in the team that allowed me to frag like I did. Like I was never never going in first. Like majority of the time, I was like third or fourth in, or sometimes even last. Like I was lurking, pulling attention off, and then feeding information to them, and them feeding to me. Like it just worked well because like I could play the slow, methodical type of style, which is the style that I like to play, and they would take the control like very well actually. Like it just like the whole reason behind like the whole pulse thing, like splitting up and whatever. Like I think it was Pex. He moved to Sinister 5, and then I got offered by Sean Puffy. He offered me out here, and then like the whole team ended up splitting apart, and now it's just Sharon left with the old Ventus lineup. But yeah, anyway, going back to what I was saying, they made it very easy for me. Like some games, like yeah, okay, cool. I needed to pull something out of the hat, and I needed to go ham. Other games, it just made it easy for myself. Like it was a very easy team to play with in RGL. To be honest, it wasn't like a grind or anything.
That's good.
I mean,
before you
sorry, I just wanted to,
go for it.
sorry, I just wanted to jump in and just like ask, like the way you guys played, did you guys try and like, I mean, I think that MM strat of like, oh, let's look for a pick, I think is probably the wrong thing. But did you guys ever like try and play off of one of your players making something happen? Like maybe getting into, being able to sneak into something like the vent room on Mirage. Did you guys ever try and play off of something like that, like some crazy little play that one of your players could do, or did you guys try and step by step? Okay, we smoke mid on Mirage, then we take this area, then was there ever like a step by step plan, or was it more just trying to work off of players making some small play and then trying to adapt on the fly type thing?
See, we had a mindset of if numbers are equal, we didn't really need to like go for anything crazy. We didn't need to take risks or anything. But like as soon as we got like a disadvantage or a man down or 2 man down, then we'd look at someone to like make a crazy play, like ask for a flash over and go through like a smoke or something, or like through a molly, or like dice a molly somewhere. But majority of the time we played off a default, like okay, we're gonna get like say on Mirage, okay, we get mid control, and then from mid control we're either going to branch to an A or B depending on the information that we get or the kills that we get while we're taking the control away from them. And then we'd obviously execute onto the site with like a B split or an A split or something in mind with the appropriate smokes coming in. Like I think the biggest thing for like the previous team with Pulse that destroyed us was like the very aggressive CT sides, because like we didn't really have that early game mindset of, oh, these oaks are going to push us and they're going to try and take this from us and this and this, and I feel like that's where we kind of fell off.
That's also
I suppose
what
that is.
Well, that is what the top teams do, though. They will push you, except for DC, weirdly, but pretty much all of them will push you on their CT side to try get aggressive.
I think the biggest culprit that we struggled against was Goliath. Actually, the Mirage B apps take, it's a bit rough.
W key taped down on CT side.
It's Massacre and Goals that push that B apps. It's just it's havoc. It's ridiculous.
That's also the nature of that sort of team, though, because I mean, it's 4 incredibly aggressive players on the same team. So I think it's just in their nature to be that aggressive and try to take map control from you and maybe kill you. So I know what you're talking about, though, as being a tactical team and struggling to deal with those sorts of pushes, because especially Bravado and Energy will try to test you earlier on to see how do you react to us being aggressive, and if you fall apart, they'll just keep doing it. I mean, top international teams do that to teams they think lesser as well. It just seems to be the way. If we feel we can outskill you, we're going to try it, and that is always the toughest thing to deal with as a team that's up and coming. Because if you can stop them and make them respect you, then you've got a foot in the game.
Yeah. That's the thing but particularly with Goliath, it was more so like they take the control, be aggro, like I come here, I'm gonna shoot you, I'm gonna, you don't stand a chance, and then all of a sudden they're just like, okay, now we disciplined, like we're not gonna over peek. If you peek into us, we have a bait and switch set up with flashes, and like it's just ridiculous. It's hard to, if they get their game style going, it's ridiculous to play against. But yeah, that's just an example as one of the teams that did it to us like excessively well. Like it's
Sean.
I was just gonna say, like, when you guys were playing on Pulse, I mean, even now with your new the White Rabbit game team, are there any players that you maybe get a little bit more leeway to do something? Like, for instance, Zio is obviously the IGL now, and he looked like one of the better players at Masters. Is it like, I mean, obviously with Zio being the IGL, is it something like you were saying that, you take mid control and Mirage? Is there any specific players that would have like, okay, I want to do this, and you would lean more to them, or was it like everybody gets just their own say, and you as the IGL gets the final decision? Was there any person that got a little bit more say in the team than any other?
I think, especially like the thing that I like most about this lineup is, especially with Zio's type of style of IGLing, like he never shuts anything down. So like, say for if the entries, like myself and Fatcakes, we're playing entry for WRG. If I say like, okay, no, I'm feeling a fast connect to push, I'm going to take contact on my contact, you guys can execute and stuff like that. Like he lets you guys do it. Like anyone that wants to make a play, he lets you do it, and he always sends a support player light. He sends him with you. He sends someone with you to help you out all the time. Like it's not like he dictates everything, but when it comes to discipline, like post plant and not over peaking, going like, okay, we say going dark, like when you're not peak, you just keep quiet on that side of the map, but you still hold map control. Like when it comes to that type of stuff, like yes, you can't like break that. But when it comes to like early game and that type of stuff, he lets you have your freedom up to a point where like, okay, you have the control now. There's no need to carry on going. Like you don't need to carry on looking for kills, because at the end of the day, you're going to get traded. Like there's nothing you can do about it. That's what CS is. It's a game of trading, and if you carry on and you push your luck, you're going to get traded. So he does give leeway to almost everyone in the team. I don't think there's anyone more so. Like I think like the entries have more so, because we constantly like, no, I feel a fast I want to do this. Like we have more like leeway in terms of where we want to go. Like Puffy, every now and then he gets a spawn and he's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go for this, I'm gonna go for that. Like someone come flash me, do this. Like it is based off of that, but I don't think it's very like dictatorship over like, oh no, you must do this, you must do this, you must do that. Someone gets a specific, you can go, but you can't because you're a little bit less skilled. Like we all think of ourselves as equal in the team, which is what I like the most about the lineup.
I mean, so you're saying you're playing entry, like, are you secondary calling at all, or is it all coming through Zio at the moment?
It's all from Zio. Like sometimes I give ideas like, oh, okay, this is what the enemy team's doing. Like maybe let's try play a bit slow. Maybe like let's try do, different things. But other than that, I trust what he has to say. Like he has a very good mind for the game. So like majority of the time, what he's saying, it works, but we're not executing it properly, or we're not doing something correctly in the lineup. So I think it's just that type of thing.
So
fair enough.
Maybe something from my side that I think is interesting about coming back to your IGL side there, Dean, is IGLs are actually quite a tough thing to come by these days. It's good that you've worked under Zero Chance, which I think made a big difference. I think he's made a big difference to a lot of young players, actually. If you look at the guys he's played with over the years, who've gone on to bigger and better things. I mean, now you're playing under Zio, he's got all the experience in the world. But if you always want to have a job in Counter-Strike at the semi-pro or pro level, be an IGL, because they're pretty thin on the ground. Is it something that you're going to go back to doing in the future? Casting your mind into a couple of years, assuming you guys win multiple titles and, become world champions and all of that, are you going to become an IGL?
See, the thing is with IGLing, like it's very hard to balance your in-game leading with your fragging. Like if you have players that can frag and that can constantly do it well, like it's a breeze. But if you have to be the big hitter and you have to constantly put up the numbers, then it's a bit harder, if that makes sense. But in the future, like I don't particularly like IGLing, but it's something that I will do if I need to do it. Like in the future, like I'd want to stay in like this type of like sport, like esport. Like I want to maybe like cast, analyze, coach, whatever it is. Like I want to stay in it, but in future with like IGLing, I want to kind of like stay away from it. Like I play better without IGLing than when I do IGL.
I think everybody does. It's a pretty big burden, eh? I mean, it really is a lot going on in your head that's not right in front of your face on the server. But
no, it's a bit hectic.
Okay, well that's cool. So I mean, now with the main White Rabbit gaming team, of course they've won multiple titles in Dota. they definitely have the aspirations of winning titles in CS:GO. When you guys are in the figuring out stage and the building stage, are you guys going to be title contenders in the future? Do you think? Is that within the expectations you have for the team?
I definitely think this team is top three. Like we've been putting up decent numbers against some of the top like teams. I mean, we were together for a week, and I think we took 7 rounds against Energy on Overpass. I don't think we've ever played that map together before. So there is the potential to go through it. Like right now, we are in the development stage of going through the growing pains. Like, okay, here's the executes, this, and this, and this. Like, I think the biggest thing is people playing their roles correctly. Like, I myself have never entryed before, so I'm still learning the entry routes. Like, okay, need to make space, not slow down. Like, I'm used to going in, taking it like aim jaws, and then slowing down. Whereas like now, I just need to carry on pushing and going through and making space for the team, which is what I need to get used to. Same thing with like everyone in the team just needs to get comfortable with each other. Like we're at that stage where we have the potential and the skill level is there, but we don't have the like means of doing it right now. Like we still need to grow, we still need to learn as a team, I feel. But definitely in the future, I think we're going to be like top 3, top 5.
That's good to
So,
know.
I mean, you guys are obviously currently playing in ESEA. I check you guys had a bit of an up and down situation at the moment, and you guys played see Energy that's 7-16, and you guys have Goliath Gaming later this week, and then Big Five is your last game of the season. I mean, obviously ESEA at this point, the likelihood of you guys making top 6 is not great. Are you guys just using ESEA is like sort of starting point, like as in we have to play all the maps in this season? Do we just do you guys just like sort of knock it out and try to figure out where you want to play and then start working? You have to play all 7 maps and then start working down where you guys want to actually go with the map pool, or are you still kind of open as to what you guys are going to do?
At the moment, we're just kind of playing ESEA to play ESEA. I mean, like it's fun, like playing against some of the top teams that won't necessarily like. Okay, you're a new lineup. We don't really want to waste our time playing you. Like we want to work on our stuff against like a better team. Like you know what I'm saying. But it also we were using it to see like where we are in terms of our basic stuff. Like just as without anything, the free flow type of style on all the maps. I feel apart like I'm pretty sure we're gonna ban nuke. Like no one likes that map on this team. Like no one. Apart from
Nobody
me.
does.
But I mean,
DC, DC.
No, that's the thing. But other than that, yeah, because I think when this roster change was happening, I think WRG didn't like the roster change was happening in the season itself.
Yeah.
Like everyone moving in and out, players shuffling around. So like, so I think like we knew like, okay, well, we haven't played majority of the games. Some of the games are scheduled badly. Like, I think we lost to a random team, Ominous Gaming. They played really well, but I mean, like we had issues ourselves. But we're just using it to see like, okay, this is where we stand. This is what we need to work on. This is, so that's what we're using ESN now at the moment. But definitely the next season, we're going to be aiming to get top 6.
Well, fantastic. Appreciate you giving us so much insight. I know you've got to go for your ESEA game at 8, so we can't stay talking for too long. But I mean, if you need to go and we have to finish the show, there's that too. But I think we covered it pretty well. Really appreciate your insight, and I actually want to get you on the show again in future. And I'd like to do a video with you too sometime because I think you've got some good insights
We
into
can
the
definitely
game.
do it.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about where ESEA as a season is. I mean, this is a part of the show where we're going to go into talking about the events that are happening in South Africa, the international stuff, and of course what's coming up later tonight. If you're a huge CS fan, you got to know about IEM Oakland. Got to watch that at 9 o'clock, guys. You just have to. It's compulsory. If not, uninstall basically. But
Sure.
again, thanks for joining us on CS:GO Deep, sponsored by Aperture PC. This is of course Extremes, Profeci, and special guest Kazamir from White Rabbit Gaming. Has been on since 7, so you can catch the VOD of the beginning of the interview with Kazamir as well. If you like what you see, like the channel, like the video, go follow Kazamir on Twitter. He needs more followers. He needs to get more than me because all players should have more than me, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, ESEA I think is something we'll just quickly focus on now. So I'm just going to switch to the browser view so you guys can see ESEA. There we go. Energy sitting pretty at the top there, 13 wins, 0 losses, which is, shows a bit of dominance out of them. And they did play Bravado already this season and beat them. So continuing on in that vein. In XD and Spartan, have you played Spartan yet, Kaz?
Who's Spartan Esports?
It's their WoW and the boys.
The old OG guys, I think.
No, I don't think we have.
They seem to do really, really well online always. Because I mean, there was also the whole OCS thing as well. I think they finished top on in the league there under the name OG. So it's crucial there while Lishlord, Albert, Stain, and the Man. So I mean, all players that have been around for a bit.
I think Smithers left, hey?
Looks like it.
If I'm not mistaken, yeah. They were going to go to LAN, and Smithers pulled the normal thing that he always does.
Yeah, we all know about
So,
that.
I mean,
we spoke about it on the show a couple of weeks ago, actually. So, yeah, they're the one outlier for me in terms of teams. Like, how good are they really? I'd like to cover a couple of their games potentially. I think there is a game from last night that Penguin actually cast against Big Five. I think it was. So maybe that's something we.
Yeah, they got panhandled though.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it was a 16-2 loss by Big Five. Yeah,
they're looking good. I mean,
I think if
Energy and BVD.
Yeah, that is very, very true. That is very, very true. But yeah, I mean, outside of just those, so right, the top 6 right now is Energy, BVD, XD, Spartan, Damage Control, Big Five. Very interesting that Goliath is actually that far down. I mean, Goliath sitting in at 8th, and they have you guys left to play. They have Damage Control left to play, and they have Vinco Gaming. So I mean, I think odds on they should beat Vinco, since it is played on Cobble and Goliath is fairly solid on Cobble. But I mean, against you guys, they could possibly come unstuck. You obviously said that at the moment, they seem to be like they're eating you guys alive. But the DC match, I think, could be very, very interesting. What do you think there, Kaz? Do you think that that DC Goliath game? Who would you favor in that matchup? Because DC always says that they should be able to beat Goliath, but Goliath has such insane fragging. Well, I mean, Goliath has insane fragging, and when they do pitch up, it gets brutal pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's the thing. With Goliath especially, it's just if they do pitch up, like you said. If Goliath are firing, then I don't think DC will stand much of a chance. DC are sets, and they are the more stable person to go for if you want to put money on someone. You'd put it on DC, obviously, but it depends on the day and the map, I guess. What map is it again?
It's Inferno.
That's
going to be a tough one. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. I think it would be a good one to watch. I think you should actually cast it, Mike. Cool. It would be a good idea to do that.
Give it a go. What day of the week is it on? Actually,
it is the 15th, so tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
Deal. It's officially booked for.
It's done. Okay.
It's officially booked for the 15th.
Okay, so, well, we'll cast it tomorrow night then. I'll see who I can guess. I don't want Profeci. This guy's a shadow, but I'll find somebody else. You want to cast, Dean?
I don't think it's a good idea. I think I swear too much to cast, to be honest.
No, we'll see what we do. I'll probably do it with Prof or SLP. Maybe Recoils. Maybe Linus. I don't know. You know what I'm gonna do in future?
I think SLP.
I'm just gonna put the names in a hat and then just shake it and pull one out, and it's this is who I'm casting with. You're the lucky winner. You get the dubious honor of casting with Extremes.
Sure.
But anyway, yeah, we'll probably cast later in the week. I mean, for you guys who are following the ESEA season, probably cast tomorrow and Thursday, depending on what games are on, and definitely 100% doing some games on Sunday with Anthrax. So the in-between games during the week are a little hard book because I find teams tend to chop and change them, as you know, Dean. Playing in a team, the times change a lot on those games, so it's a little tough to hard book them. But we'll see what we can do.
Dean, I just want to ask a quick question. I mean, XD, obviously they're doing a lot better at the moment than we would have suspected at the start of the season, currently sitting in 3rd. What do you think of that team at the moment?
We've played against XD before, and it's still they haven't really changed much of their game style. I don't know. We played them when I was first trialing for the team, and they still kind of play that, okay, YOLO, I'm gonna get in your face. I'm just gonna keep pushing you the whole time type of style, and it works against most teams because most teams aren't used to okay, they've taken this control. Oh shit, okay, now he's through the smoke. Oh shit, there's 4 more through the smoke. Like, okay, now what do we do? You know, like that's the type of style that XD is playing, and I'm not sure if they've kind of like changed it or not. But that's why, like, if you look at XD's previous results, like they do very well online, and they constantly, oh, okay, cool, they get a win off of like BVD or something. Like I remember they did that one season.
Yeah, South Africa season 1, yeah.
Yeah. They took a win off of BVD, and then they get to a LAN event, and then, oh, okay, now they're knocked out first. You know what I mean? Like it's very 50-50 with that type of game style. Like, yeah, sometimes it works really well and it's good, but other times, like especially if you're on level playing field with ping and all of that, if you take everything into account, like it's harder to play against teams with that type of style than you would with the, okay, I'm gonna get in your face. Okay, now we've got control. Now let's relax, see what they're gonna do, how they would react, like that type of thing. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with AC. Like it's a very 50-50 team in terms of like what's happening on the day for them, if they're hitting their shots, if the other team is hitting their shots. Like it's very, a lot of factors come into play with how they would win or not.
But as you say, their entire sort of win condition is that they need to be hitting their shots, and if you're equal to them in skill, then they really can't win because they don't have a fallback, unfortunately. I mean, it's very similar to a team like G2, for instance. You know, like if they wreck you in aim, then you know you're not going to win. If you can match them in that sense, then it's very hard for them to win without extreme bullshit going down, basically. You know,
I mean, it's G2. Extreme bullshit is pretty much how they play.
The EBS toggle on Kenny S, you let him go into the round and he just kills everybody, and it's like, okay, well, that shouldn't have happened, but we won. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, talking about them, they're actually coming up later, so we will get there. We will talk about it tonight, guys. I don't know, we're running out of time a little bit for Dean, but we may let him go and talk about IM Oakland without him. I think the next thing we can maybe look to chat about a little bit here is in South Africa again. The ESEA playoffs are coming up. It was confirmed on the stream by Anthrax when I was casting with him. He's like, "Hey, why don't we do the playoffs at the Middle State studio?" So we're going to do that. That's going to be really cool. So that's the first time ESEA will be covered properly in a studio with an observer and everything in SA. So I think that's a nice step. Of course, we're all doing it for free because we're completely crazy, right? We just want to help the community. We enjoy getting the casting practice, and of course making sure people get to watch CS. Because if we weren't doing it, unfortunately there wouldn't be any CS for a few months until the next season of something starts. So I think it's really really cool opportunity. And again, if you're a newcaster, please cast ESEA. Go check it out. You get the IP address like 5-10 minutes before the game starts, and you can cast it. Anybody can do it. Go for it, please. Need more people doing this stuff, guys. Then there was IESF, which we will all have a nice quick laugh about. I think that should be fun.
Yes.
You guys want to have a ruffle about that a little bit? Let me just bring up the
8 rounds on
here.
LAN.
Yeah.
8 rounds on LAN is all I'm saying.
So Protea was the South African team. Finished stone last. Only got 8 rounds on LAN. Which I know sounds horrible, but then that's I think more rounds than Bravado got against Space Soldiers last year at WESG. So it's relative. The only thing is
Space Soldiers is gonna.
They're pretty damn good.
Space Soldiers will. Yeah, I mean, Space Soldiers would wax the LAN that just went down, in my opinion. So
I was just about to say,
I think it's very very unfair. I think to put Space Soldiers in that kind of
no, but you see where
bracket.
I'm going with this argument is that is exactly the kind of argument that MSSA would pull out, and it's actually entirely invalid. Because do you remember the last time they put out a press release? I think they said Bravado got destroyed overseas. So I mean,
they never used the words Bravado. They used the so-called best team in South Africa, which was everyone was like, not so-called. They pretty much earned that spot. So. Like, I don't know.
So, I mean, these guys are not the so-called best team in South Africa. I mean, let's look at the names. If the so-called best team got destroyed, what adjective do we use for this? Is this like being like RPK'd, or I mean, where do we go with this? How bad do we go before we get banned from YouTube?
Look. To be honest, like in the fair, right? Some of these players are pretty decent. Like. They are up and coming, and you're probably going to see them in future. Like, yeah. But to send a team like this overseas to play and represent South Africa is kind of a bit questionable, to be honest. Like, you can't like they do well sometimes in South Africa, but sometimes they get raffle stomped as well. But I mean, like, you're sending them into places where, like, okay, the top cut they're sending their top, like, some of their top players to this event, and they get these players get raffle stomped by some of the teams in this country that aren't really the greatest. So I don't know, like, the thought process behind it. I don't know what's missing, but
two of the players currently play on the Vex lineup that's in ESEA, and they currently have a 7-5 record in ESEA.
So middle of the road in ESEA right now.
That's Chappie and Froster. So I mean, they're 11th on the board. Just want to check their losses quickly. All right, so they lost to Pulse, your old team. They lost to Skeletons again. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Okay, default win against Flipside. Then they've lost to Damage Control. They've lost to Energy, and they have lost to XD. So I mean, all reasonable losses, but still, you'd think that, like, and again, this is not about the players. It's got nothing to do with the players. It's more the fact that these are guys that are being picked and said to be the best in the country, and then sent over, get hammered, and then have to come back, and everyone's like, what's going on here? You know, so it's not about the players. These are guys that have taken an opportunity and they've gone overseas. Props to them.
Agreed.
The problem is that most of the reasons why we don't have our best players at these events is because of the ruling organization. So I don't know. It doesn't give a good look to South Africa when we go minus 40 in round difference on LAN. And I mean, let's be honest, gents, like, that MVP team that topped the log is not a good team. They came third at this event, but that's not a very, very good team at all.
Probably the best team, if we looked at Star League the week before in Shanghai, was probably Havu on paper, because I mean, at one point they gave VP a slightly hard time of it, but you know, they didn't win the LAN either. So I mean, it was kind of weird to me as well that our team was kind of called a national team, whereas the rest of the teams were just essentially MGO teams. You know, like, it wasn't Team Korea or Team China or anything like that. It was Havu playing for China and MVP Project playing for Korea, that sort of thing. So I mean, that makes it a little bit confusing, because, like, what's the point of a national championship kind of thing and getting national colors if you're going to something where the other teams that are at this thing aren't placed under the same constraints, it seems? Because I mean, literally, those are just normal MGOs. It just happens to be that the nationality of the players are all the same. And I mean, WESG is probably the best example of a one nationality per team kind of thing going on in international CS, where there's massive amounts of money on the line, and you know, MSSA don't have anything to do with it. So you know, that's probably the most relevant national team versus national team kind of tournament, really. You know, if you think about it, one team per country, and you're going to see like North playing there, or I don't think Astralis are playing that I know of, but I think it's North that's doing it.
Yeah, Astralis played last year. I think they got knocked out in the qualies or something. But I mean, a lot of those teams, especially like the top level teams, don't go to those competitions because to them it's not worth the time and effort, I think. So
easy money,
especially
though.
with the major coming up. I think the major's like 3 weeks before, or 3 weeks after this event, and there's no way Astralis is like, let's go to China, and then 3 weeks later fly right across the world to America and go play there.
That's time difference.
That does not strike me as something that a top level team would do unless you're VP.
Yeah, well, they like to go for the bucks, which is good for them. I think Bravado know all about the whole China and America flight thing, because they did Mountain Dew LAN and then WSG in China earlier this year. So they know all about it. Jet lag for days, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, I guess we might get some kind of comment from MSSA, but I doubt they watch this podcast, so I don't know. I mean, again, I don't think we're really bagging on the players. Like, I mean, those guys they did their best. They tried. And I mean, if somebody was going to send me to Korea for free, I'd probably say yes as well. I mean, who wouldn't, really? So I don't really blame those guys. It's an unfortunate situation, and I mean, the community reaction to it's pretty justified. I think, you know, the old outrage and thing. And the craziest thing about it, of course, is MSSA don't, as far as I know, have the the authority to hand out national colors anymore either. So it all doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But anyway, we'll move on from that, I think, guys. Let's move on to happier things, much happier things. If you're a Cloud9 fan, I think you're probably happy, actually. Very happy.
At the moment.
Yeah, because they won Power Masters, and I actually thought it was more Team Liquid's tournament to win, really. If I looked at it, I'll switch to the browser view here for you guys, so you can... actually, I opened the wrong link there, so that's not going to help anyway. But the Power Masters tournament wasn't super stacked or anything. It was just decent American teams playing, and Cloud9 won in the end against Renegades. And Renegades...
They did it the hard way.
Oh, yeah. Well, they definitely did it the hard way. I mean, they lost the first map really badly against Team Liquid, I think it was, and then from there...
Yeah. Well, I mean,
righted the ship.
the reason why I say they did it the hard way is because they lost to Renegades in the upper bracket of their group, so they ended up playing Liquid in the semis and then had to play Renegades in the final. Now, I mean, Renegades has looked pretty solid in the last 2-3 weeks. I mean, behind Nifty, who's just going ham at the moment, JKS is playing well. The team's pretty dangerous. NAF obviously is providing quite a bit as well. So I think this gives a lot more credence, and especially because previous to this, Liquid has been absolutely dumpstering Cloud9 on basically in all maps that they played. So I think it's very, very important for Cloud9 that they won.
Absolutely. Kaz, are you a fan of any of these teams in this tournament?
I'd say I really like I'd say I'm also Cloud9 Liquid. Like I really do like the NA teams. Like I like their play style and that type of stuff, but also like looking for the more not so generic type of game style and that type of stuff. Like if you want to find something out of a hat that you can pull off and like people won't expect it because they don't really watch the demos. Like you can look at your luminosities, your optics, that type of thing. But yeah, I don't think I'd say that I favored any team in this tournament. I don't like. I'm also your SK and your those type of teams. Like those are my type of teams that I like. But other than that, I didn't say like I'd supported any of these teams throughout this particular event.
Yeah, well, I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to let you go because I know you got your ESEA match coming up. So really appreciate the time. If you guys didn't catch Kazamir early on talking about his current team and recent career and everything, you can definitely catch the VOD. It'll be up immediately after this. But we'll keep talking about Power Masters, and we're going to do an IEM Oakland preview as well as talking about the news coming up, and what has happened in the last week of Counter-Strike. Would have loved to do it with you, Dean, but I know you got to go play with your team, get that W.
I need to go.
Yeah, so go get that win. You do you, bro. And
okay, thanks a lot, Sam Mark.
Cool, man. It's been great having you on.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks a lot.
Good luck for the game, eh?
Okay, cool. You guys too.
Good luck.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks.
See you, man. Cool, there we go. So, and now we've got your face back. Now it's got to resize this and make you look less giant-headed, basically. So,
yeah, I mean, I got called Jason R earlier. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
And it says Shizzy Go instead of Profeci because I didn't actually pre-prepare for him to leave. So that was something that was springed on us a little bit last minute there. I think it was springed on him a little bit last minute as well. So I don't blame him. It would have been nice to have him to talk about IEM Oakland particularly. But coming back to the Power Masters sort of thing, I mean, I wasn't super interested in the tournament, to be honest. I watched a bunch of the games, but my level of interest for the tournament wasn't huge just based on the teams that were there because, I mean, really it was about 4 teams. I mean, maybe 5 if you want to include Misfits in it, but Cloud9, Renegades, Liquid, Optic, profoundly disappointing still. I mean, we haven't seen a ton of them online, but it's kind of crazy how much better they are online, considering they're at the top of the log with in the North American region for ESL Pro League, which is a little crazy. And then you've got them when they're actually playing on LAN at the minor, bombing out, and here at this tournament, not really looking great. And I think a lot of it for Optic really does come down to the lack of a proper in-game leader and a strategic structure around their playstyle.
Yeah, it also doesn't seem like an entirely coherent team as a result. Like they have a bunch of good players, but it's sort of just like a bunch of good players and not an actual team. And I mean that does probably come down to the fact that they don't have an IGL, but I don't know. Old school Fnatic was able to make it work. It just seems like this, where people are like, FaZe is like this like multinational team that's worked out well. Mouse Sports is this multinational team that's worked out well. Optic is what happens when the team doesn't work out well. Like they look fantastic online when I think they can make big plays more readily as individuals, but yeah, it didn't look solid at all. But I mean, I think this event as a whole is a good showcase for the fact that America's actually sneakily picked up a couple of good tier 2 teams of late.
Yeah,
Renegades is on a real heater. Optic is looking solid. I mean, and they're not American, but they certainly play in the region. And Misfits goes from, I think, strength to strength. They're just going to need to... I think Misfits probably needs an upgrade in terms of personnel.
I agree.
But North America is no longer the Cloud9 Liquid show. And I think that's fantastic to see. It means that... events are going to get more competitive. I mean, it does also mean that teams like Cloud9 don't make it to ESL Pro League because now they're getting wrecked online by some teams that are just absolutely trash.
This is true. I mean, that's always the difficulty. I mean, we see it in ESL Pro League and ECS, where teams that you would want to be at the LAN just can't make it, and other teams that don't make it on LAN somehow, destroy online. I mean, we have the same phenomenon in South Africa with, for instance, the old OG team. We were talking about them before, now Spartan, amazing online. Not quite to the level that we'd expect on LAN, but then they didn't really play online except when they were called Pro Wolves, so maybe that's not quite a one-to-one sort of example. What I do want to talk about, though, is Nifty for Renegades. Just looking at the team here, I mean, originally an all-Australian lineup. Now they've 3 Australians. They got Nifty in the IGL, which is crazy. I mean, he's top fragging consistently, and he's the in-game leader. And they got Naf in, his ex-Optic, and had a lot to do with Optic winning E-League last year. So I think it's a really solid team. I think it's got amazing potential, and the fact that the in-game leader is also fragging at such a level at the moment and is probably the fastest firing AWPer in the world right now. I mean, this guy just shoots so quickly, it's insane. I think they can really achieve a lot here.
They definitely can. I think IEM Oakland, because for those of you guys that don't know, Immortals wasn't able to make Oakland, so they've been swapped out with Renegades, which I'm actually pretty happy with that. I think it's an upgrade in terms of teams going to Oakland, which we'll cover later. But I want to see Renegades, and specifically I want to see Nifty against the better teams tonight.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that he looks unreal against tier 2. Like he was, like there's that one round where he goes up against Optic to win the first map. It's like, guys, just go and watch that. It's a 4K that he ends with, like, he does like a freaking air strafe through the smoke, jumps out and no scopes a guy who's falling off of the red box on cash. It's just like, what even is this world anymore?
Yes. That was after like a crazy flick shot through the smoke, and then he'd air strafe bunny hopped around, and I mean, geez, this is like, if we didn't know he was legit, it would be like, holy crap, this kid's hacking, right?
I mean, he's got that other highlight from, I think it was the Asian Minor earlier this year, where he wrecked the one guy. It was also on cash, where he shot the one guy through the floor and then wall banged the guy through the connector area on cash as well.
Yeah, that was insane, eh?
Like, he looks like he's crazy good, but we need to see more of him. They did well against Cloud9 on the Mirage map to win that map. I just, like, he kind of went to pieces, and the team as a general went to pieces against Cloud9 in the final, when they did pretty well against Virtus Pro last week. So I want to see if they can keep that up. If they do decently at IEM Oakland, I think we know a little bit more. But right now, I think that, like, Cloud9, Liquid, Renegades, I think is a very, very good top 3 in America, because I think I'd put Renegades there right now. Misfits, Optic, dangerous tier 2 teams in America for those teams, for the tier 1 NA teams. I don't think Optic and Misfits are going to do anything at tier 1 worldwide. I think the EU teams are going to eat them alive, but I definitely want to see Renegades against EU, and I want to see Cloud9 against EU, and specifically Liquid. I think with their change, which we're going to get to now, I'm a little bit more shaky about it. I think the change has potential, but
yeah, well,
I don't know. Liquid looks like a messed up team at the moment. Their Inferno is beastly, but the rest of the map pool is shaky at best.
Indeed. I think also for Renegades, if we come back to them, having Cassard as the coach, I think makes a big difference as well. I mean, he's pretty renowned for being a very tactical mind in CS and goes back a long way as well. So I think it's shown a change, because I mean, at one point I think Gomez, who's their manager, was the coach, and I don't think that particularly worked at the time. But the whole Cassard thing seems to be working out. Is the Optic coach is I'm a Pet, right? From XLG. Am I correct in that? Or is
I believe you are. Yeah, I think I'm a Pet is the Optic coach. Yes.
He's really highly regarded, and that, to me, so far with Optic, I mean, obviously they don't have a real in-game leader. I mean, Freiburg's trying, but he's never been an in-game leader before. They look very, very puggy, I must say, considering they've got such a highly regarded coach. I really thought they might have, a few tricks up their sleeve, but they don't seem to have any of that.
Like, the problem is that, like Kaz is saying, it's like you'll do it if you have to, but if it doesn't naturally come to you, if you don't choose to go down that route, I think it becomes very, very tricky to dedicate that amount of time, especially because Freiburg is a natural entry player. So it's like you have to be making decisions the whole time. Like, okay, the team has to do this, team has to do this, and it can very often just become like you trying to get the best out of the team. So it's like, okay, guys, just look for something, and if one of the players can find something, as I said earlier, they get into a spot where they can maybe just cut off rotations if you hit a site type thing, or one player gets some crazy 2K. They can work off of that in the shadow of the moment. But as soon as they get under pressure, guys, we have to win these last 5 rounds. We're low eco. We need to do this. It's like it's those calls where you'll often see just okay, guys, all we need to do is we need to buy 3 smokes, pop them. We just need to get a bomb plant this round. I think teams like Optic probably are going to struggle against a team that knows how to hold off that kind of thing. And once you get into that role, or once you get into that mode of you're now under pressure, I think, especially because you haven't done it before, you sort of pick up a mental block and you start worrying about a couple of things that you probably shouldn't be. Then you're trying to help this player do something, and you just lose sight of the overall picture. And I think that's the biggest problem with Optic right now, is that they don't seem to have a coherent identity as to who's going to be the best, because the team should be better than it is. I mean, a lot of heat is on HS at the moment. I don't think he's completely terrible, but
he's okay.
If you're making a change, I think HS is probably the first one you remove, and you probably find a Gobby or a tier 2 IGL that has run a team before, and I think that Optic would look a lot better.
I'd agree. I see Cranky mentioning in the stream Carrigan is entry 2, right? Well, I mean, on that MSL also plays entry a lot of the time for North as well. It's not necessarily an issue for an IGL to play an entry sort of role. I mean, Carrigan isn't always entry. It's really dependent on where they're going and where he happens to be on the map at the time. But a lot of that sort of mentality is that IGL is trying to take the responsibility on himself to set up his more skilled players. So he's taking the contact. He wants to basically initiate the contact so that they can trade off him and they don't have to die on the site entry, which is a great way to think about it. It's just, if you purely an entry player, I mean, I used to play entry, so I kind of know the mentality of when your IGL says go, you hold down W and you don't stop until either you're dead or you've got the bomb site. So you just keep going and you keep pushing. Kazamir was saying it earlier, you make space for the rest of your team and you keep pushing, whereas if you a more the third guy in, a more mid-round sort of player, you're not going to push right to the end of the bomb site. You're going to take up residence in the bomb site once you've got it and, look to hold it. As the entry fragger, you're going to keep going until you find somebody, basically. So it's a very different mindset, and, it's a very one-track mind you have to have as an entry. So to expand your thinking as an entry to now be, okay, wait, I'm the in-game leader. I need to think where everybody is. Is this the right time to attack? Isn't it? Because I mean, as an entry as well, a lot of it is about being very aggressive and very assertive as a player, and that also means that often entries will take contact when they shouldn't if they're not listening to the IGL or whatever. So now trying to separate those two sort of inclinations as a player is, I think, is going to be really difficult for a guy like Freiburg, having not done it before. MSL and Carrigan, they've played multiple roles. Carrigan's been a full-time AWPer before in 1.6. Used to play in Mouse Sports and Fnatic back in the day. So I mean, he's played different roles. He understands what you need to do to succeed at different things. I don't think Freiburg is the same sort of player.
I think, like, especially if you're looking at MSL, like MSL is always part of a tandem, usually with AZ, in that he's running in first and he's like a dedicated hard entry, much like Freiburg was. But like, for people that haven't watched old school NIP, Freiburg was such a good entry that you sent him in alone with like 0 flashes and he would just like man mode a bomb site and win. MSL and Carrigan, when they do that role, are never in that situation. They're going in and it's like they're going in as the first guy with like a Nico or an AZ behind them, and their only job is they got to run and pull fire towards them. Like, if they get a kill, that's fantastic. But their job primarily as an entry is make space and allow AZ to walk into a site with a guy not looking at him and then just one bullet him. Like, NIP used to do that, and they used to have Freiburg running in and Forest, but Freiburg used to be so good that he could actually take out those players. The thing is, when Carrigan and MSL do it, there's a lot more flashes, a lot more utility issues, so they're smoking off certain areas, they're making their lives easier, whereas if you aren't an experienced IGL like Freiburg isn't, like, it's often hard to figure out on the fly, okay, we've got 2 flashes and like 1 smoke. What are the 3 areas that we need to drop in the next 10 seconds so we can actually get into the site? And I think that's really what's holding Optic back, is that like Freiburg has to make intensely quick decisions for the whole team, and he's never done that before. So, I mean, like I said, again, you could hear Kazamir saying like he doesn't enjoy it because it's like you have to think about everything else and your own game, and that's often why IGLs tend to have such poor performances, because like you have to sort of manage teams and then still like be making tiny decisions like we got to do this, what's this guy seeing, what has that guy told me, and trying to like sort all of that stuff out. Now, if you're also an entry, or you're the first thing you've ever done as an entry and now you're trying to IGL, learning that on the fly while at a LAN against a team that already knows what they're doing and can set up to beat you, can often just seem like you're sort of like running into a wall and you don't know where to find the cracks.
Oh, exactly. I mean, you need to have awareness of what everybody else is doing and what they should be doing. And again, if you've only played that sort of very early round role, sometimes I think it would be quite hard to model what other people should be doing. Communication also absolutely crucial in that sense, because if you're doing a split or you playing as part of a default or something, you're taking the fight and you're the IGL and you're the entry, trying to coordinate what the other guys are doing. The communication's got to be on points, and I think in an international roster like this, that's often been the weakness as well as communication, because nobody's really a native English speaker. So let's see how it goes. I mean, we're talking about them a little longer than I was expecting, but it's interesting to see. And then, we mentioned IGLs who get lots of kills. Look at Nifty from Renegades. Holy crap. So
yeah,
that's an interesting one, but I mean, he plays a completely different role. Now, I think what we shall talk about is something we alluded to a little bit earlier. Just have a look at some Twitters here. Immortals, after careful consideration, we are announcing the transfer of Steel to Team Liquid. We received a good opportunity with Team Liquid, and we wish the best of luck to Steel on his new team. Steel is a consummate professional, we know that, man, and we will always consider him part of the IMT family, man. He says man so much. He's so awesome in interviews. Love this guy, and I'm just really glad to see that he's going to be joining a top team, because it kind of felt like now with Bolts going over to SK that Steel's kind of been left in no man's land, in the dark, and it's just his career could essentially die on that a lot lesser Immortals team than it was. So it's good to see. I think it's good for him, and it's fantastic for Team Liquid, because I think without Stan on IGL, I mean, Nitro's been doing a good job. Stan really does not do a great job on the fragging front.
It's just, I mean, he was brought in as the IGL, and if he's not going to IGL, he needs to be putting up numbers. If he's not putting up numbers, okay, and now what is the point of you being on this team? Because they don't need another supportive player as such.
No.
Or they do need a supportive player, and the problem is, like, Stan is a lurker, so he's not as supportive as you'd like him to be, and he's not an IGL, and he's not putting up the numbers. So it's like he sort of failed on all fronts, and it's pretty interesting that considering that like the fact that this is almost the exact same progression that Optic last year had, is that grade 2 tournaments, dip, Stan leaves or gets kicked.
That's an
It's
interesting one. I hadn't
don't
thought of that. And like in Stan's defense, like I'd say he has an uncanny ability as a lurker to get behind the other enemy team, but it just seems he also has an uncanny ability then to kill no one with that information. Because I mean, there's multiple tournaments I can think back to. I mean, even go back to their first sort of breakout tournament with this current lineup where they played against Mousesports in ESG. And I mean, on Overpass, he got behind Mousesports probably a good 4 or 5 times. He has 3 players at his mercy, starts to shoot and instantly dies and kills no one. And I mean, that happened so many times on that map. And I just looked at the tournaments that he's played in, recently going forward from then, and it seems to be a pattern that repeats. He's so good at getting behind them, relaying the information, but the fragging is just not there. So it's good for the team. Steele's obviously a player who's been in IGL before, but he's also a really good rifler. He's not going to IGL this team. Yeah, and he's supportive. Yeah. He's not going to IGL the team, but that doesn't matter because he is actually a really competent rifler. When he played with Fallen and Fur in, I think it was Kaboom at the time, he was just a rifler and he did a good job at it.
Yeah, he's not going to take up space either. So yeah, I think he's perfect for the team. He doesn't take up space. Liquid, I mean, I think Liquid has the best 1-2 combo in North America at the moment between Twists and Elige.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, adding in Steel, I think is like he's going to bring that aspect that he had on Immortals, where he had to work with like these volatile, these volatile stars as well. So like he can bring that in and assist. And his English is good, so I think it's a fantastic pickup by Liquid. And I mean, yet again, Liquid seem to be the team most willing worldwide to, make. To buy out players when they need to upgrade.
Yeah, and they've been really willing to do that, and unfortunately for them, they seem to keep getting wrecked despite doing that. But it's the right thing to do as a team. I mean, Cloud9, I think, were probably the poster child going into this lineup change of never changing anything despite not winning. So I'm glad that they've started to embrace that as well. And of course, they won the tournament overall at Arbor Power Masters. But let's see how Liquid do. And I mean, the first opportunity is coming up. And something we'll just quickly look at before we go to IEM Oakland, which is the thing I keep saying we'll talk about and I keep deferring. But it's due to sickness, Device hasn't been able to leave for IEM Oakland until this morning. It means that our coach Zonic will play in the first game versus NIP. If there are no delays, Device will be ready to play in time for the second game versus Cloud9. So he has had a few health issues. I mean, it's not been that often, but we have heard of 1 or 2 things. I think Zonic will be just fine. They do lose quite a bit without Device, but they did manage to qualify for the top 8 at a major and then, secure legend status with Zonic and a stand-in Glaive at the time. So I think they'll be okay. NIP don't look like much of a force at the moment either, so I wouldn't be too worried if you're an Astralis fan.
I think the only worry is that I think they would have been fine if it was anybody else, but because it's Device, I think it might just be that tiny bit of worry, especially because he is both primary AWPer and consistently the best player on the team, although recently you'd say that Dupree has probably done a better job. So it's a tiny bit of worry. I think Astralis should be fine. I mean, it is only a best of 1 against NIP, but he is the one player that you'd probably least like to lose.
Absolutely. So let's see how that one goes. And of course, I'll see if I can get my Astralis shirt on while watching an Astralis game, but I'm considerably fatter than at ESL Africa, so I don't know if I'll be able to show on that thing on. But, yep. Comes from rolling in all the sweet dollar, right? Or it could also be from activity and the lack thereof, basically, since then. Need to get back into exercise. Yeah. It's so bad, man. It's so bad. So what is so good, however, is IEM Oakland. IEM Oakland looks super exciting. I mean, Epicenter was a superb tournament, really stacked. This one looks to be similarly stacked, if not for the presence of the Mongols and Envious, basically. But
It's more teams, so
More
there's
teams,
that.
yeah. So I mean, there is that, but Group B just looks insane. I mean, if you guys want to know when this tournament's starting, it's actually starting at 9 o'clock, so pretty soon. That Group B just looks crazy. FaZe, G2, Liquid, Gambit, Renegades, and Optic. Renegades, of course, replacing Immortals, which actually makes Group B even more stacked. And then Group A,
Yeah.
you got SK, Astralis, Cloud9, NiP, Envious, and the Mongols. I mean, Envious, NiP, and Mongols probably a little bit lesser than a lot of the teams that are in this tournament, but I guess we shall see. First game is NiP versus Astralis, and Astralis with aforementioned coach Zonic playing there. I mean, how do you see that one playing out?
I think that should be an Astralis win. It depends on the map there. Like, I think they'll probably, as they have, they'll probably stay away from Overpass. Like they haven't really been keen on Overpass. NiP's map pool outside of Nuke is not fantastic though. So, I think it'll probably end up on something like a Mirage or No, NiP permabans Mirage. Sorry, what am I saying? Like, I think it's going to end up on probably something like maybe a Train or an Inferno. But I think on either of those two maps, I think Astralis probably edges NiP. Like, it's going to be close because no device means that they're going to have to probably switch Dupree to main AWP.
Or just
and it's going to put a lot. That is a possibility. But it's going to put a lot more pressure on Kirby to pitch up, I think.
And
I think they have
really
enough
been
to
the
beat
problem
NiP.
lately for Astralis, though. I mean, Kirby was one of the reasons they won the major at the beginning of the year, and he's been super quiet for the recent history. And you could probably look at his HLTV rating's actually below 1.0 at the moment, which is interesting. So that kind of shows you the drop off he's sort of undergone. I mean, if we look at the stats, you'll actually see. I'm almost entirely confident. Yeah, we'll see that sort of dip going on for him, unfortunately. So there's kind of where he was at in January when they were winning the major, and it's just sort of a steady decline. And I think unless he really pulls up his socks, he could be in the situation where it's minus Kirby for somebody else in the future.
I mean, I think the earliest that discussion is going to happen is after the major, and they would have to do really, really badly at the major, I think, for that to happen. And even then, the only option, if that happens, is a young man playing in the colors of North. So
yeah, one config, which I think would be super exciting. I'd love to see that in their team, but I don't know if that level of BM will quite jive with the sensibilities in this team, though. So I guess we'll see. But looking at, I mean, as you mentioned, Astralis should probably have that Envious versus SK versus NiP. That should be SK pretty much. We got Cloud9 against the Mongols. I think where it really gets exciting for the first time in this tournament is Cloud9 versus Astralis. That could be an interesting one. Device is supposed to be in the country and ready to play that one in time. So that could be quite a
that's going to be super. That's going to be super exciting, especially because of the match that they had at E-League Premier, where Cloud9 came very, very close to beating Astralis at points, and then they just kind of had that collapse on Inferno where Astralis dumpstered them. So I think Cloud9 will most likely. I hope they start banning Inferno higher up or place Inferno higher on the ban list, because if that gets to another third map, I mean, they got absolutely reamed on it by Liquid, who is very good on it. They got reamed on it by Astralis, who's also very good. So, like, I think Cloud9 needs to either figure out what the hell they're doing on Inferno, or actively start banning it early on, because right now they're in a lot of problems with their map pool against a team like Astralis.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. They've got plenty of firepower, but when it comes to the depth of their map pool and the depth of their strategy, they don't really have it. So, Astralis tend to be the hard counter to that sort of team. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, the next really exciting game is probably G2 FaZe, but that's so early in the
first time they played.
Yeah, we're not
first
gonna see
time.
it.
First time G2 and FaZe have played each other on LAN with these lineups.
Yeah,
so that is going to be mega fire.
Still going to back FaZe there, though. I don't know how you feel about that one.
it's G2. It's like, oh, we'll be terrible, and then like the next week we'll just dumpster Astralis like they're not even on the server. It's cool, and then we'll dumpster North like they're not even on the server. Take a day's break and be absolutely terrible against Virtus Pro. It's just like I don't understand the French anymore. I think, I mean, like if you look at how they play, it's really going to depend on whether Kenny S pitches up, because at Epicenter, Shocks looked like he was coming back to form, which is fantastic. You definitely want him there. And G2 definitely has the firepower to go up against FaZe, unless FaZe is going on all guns blazing. So I think both these teams have a lot to prove. G2 especially because they got knocked out by VP, but FaZe as well because they failed in the groups at the last event that they went to. So both these teams have a lot to come out. And I think whoever wins that matchup probably tops the group unless something crazy happens.
Yeah.
I'm going to back FaZe there because I think at the moment they just, like, on their maps they look stronger than G2 does on G2's own maps.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. Depth as well for FaZe. I mean, there was some cracks showing in their armor at Epicenter, but still that's sort of a blip on the radar of mostly success for them so far. So let's see how that goes. I mean, the tournament format is interesting. It's a round robin, so everybody plays everybody within the group in a BO1. So they basically play 5 matches before it actually goes into the quarterfinals and then semifinals and grand finals. So there aren't any
top team in the group goes to semis directly, though.
Yes, I actually saw that, which actually was the next point I was going to say. It's like I don't think that's 100% ideal. It almost feels to me like there should be decider games and that sort of thing going on, to decide who does what and who goes where. That whole auto birth thing, I mean, we've so often seen teams get wrecked when they get auto birthed into, and they don't play for a day. The other guys get all that action, and then these guys are sitting, waiting, and getting cold.
What event was it? There was an event earlier this year that ran this. Was it at Katowice? I think it was Katowice. Because before that event, according to Thorin, no event that had a team auto-birthed into a semi and waited for the team coming in, no team had ever won an event if they'd automatically started in the semis. Like CSGO and CS 1.6, the entirety of CS history, they had never won if you'd started in the semis. So I don't like it. I can certainly see why they have to do it, because it's kind of like you only have so much time, and it would be lovely that maybe you could have another 2 best of 3s, but you got to fit them in some way. I mean, in theory, I think SK tops Group A, so they probably make it to the semis. But then the question is, for me, I mean, I'm going to go with FaZe topping Group B, and then G2 likely will end up going up against SK in the semis on that end of the bracket. And SK with Phelps never beat G2.
Yeah, that's true.
What is SK with Bolts going to be like?
Probably a more measured approach from them in general, which I think kind of plays to their advantage versus a team like G2 that thrives on randomness. I mean, I just think of the train wreck that was Inferno at times, with the 2 players on B-bomb side in Phelps and Fur just both holding down W down Banana, and I don't think that kind of thing is particularly conducive to the chaos that G2 like to live within. I think structure against them is a far better approach, and to me, SK have looked a lot better with Bolts, because that sort of passive rifler who's just going to do his job and support the other guys and get the kills when he needs to just seems to suit them better. I mean, Fur and Phelps could almost be interchangeable in a way based on their playstyle. Of course, Fur's never going to go anywhere because he's one of the star players and, the talismans for the team. We were talking about this the other day, and it's, whoever said it's going to be Fur, they're not going to get rid of Fur. But that balance of having a more passive rifler against that sort of mad aggression from Fur is just, it's better for the team. I think it's probably more predictable for the in-game leader, because I'm sure that he must have been tearing his hair out at times when he's trying to accomplish something and those guys are just doing whatever they do. I think dealing with one of them is fine. I mean, think of old Fnatic, JW, doing what he does. 2 JWs, oh my word.
Yeah, no, it's a bit too much on the tilty end of the scale. But I mean, okay, so I'd rather I think who do you think's getting out of Group A? Just getting out, not necessarily in the order of preference.
I mean, essentially the tournament format, because it's going to quarterfinals, only 2 teams aren't making it out initially. Aside from the order
Is it?
birth. Well,
No. 3 teams get out of each
That's
group.
6. Yeah, sorry, you're right. 6. So I mean, really, I don't think Envious and the Mongols are going anywhere. I mean, unless RPK is supported by somebody, because I mean he's been immense for the last while. Took a year and a half for him to suddenly, edge shot machine. It's got to be Scream, but unless that happens, I don't see it happening, and it hasn't happened. I mean, I just don't see it. They really are very good against tier 2 opponents, but they seem to struggle against the very best. Nip at the moment, I mean, I haven't seen a ton of them outside of ESL Pro League, really. I don't rate them at the moment, honestly. I don't think they're going to make it. I mean, Nip, sometimes Thorin like to coin that phrase, Nip Magic, which they hated for a while until they started to embrace it. But, sometimes they've had that ability in the past for the BS, to play the BS Joker card and suddenly somehow Nip against all odds make it through. We've seen a lot of that in the past 2 years, but I just don't see it against this fields, particularly against these kinds of teams. The only guys I think here who could, from their top 3 between SK, Astralis, and Cloud9, who could potentially slip on the Nip banana peel would really be Cloud9, because Cloud9 play that more puggy style, and Nip tend to do that too, but slightly more methodically. Maybe Nip could take it off them, but then again, I'm not even convinced that Nip could beat Envious at this stage. So I just don't see anybody really in if everything goes as it should, which we know it doesn't always happen. I mean, predictions are unpredictable for that reason. SK Astralis, Cloud9 through Nip, Envious, the Mongols won't make it.
Yeah, I think holding to form probably. I mean, I do agree with you. I think Nip is the only upset chance there to maybe take Cloud9's spot, but I don't see them getting any further than that at best. So yeah, SK to top the group, and then Astralis and Cloud9 to get out.
Yeah, so I mean, if we look at likely scenarios when we're going towards semi-finals, we're probably looking at something like G2 versus SK, and maybe Astralis versus FaZe. I would say, if things go as they should. Again, both Cloud9 and Liquid.
Who would get out of Group B, though? Do you think Liquid's getting out of Group B?
I don't know. That's the thing. I mean, is having a new player going to suddenly make them better, or are they going to take a while to adjust to him? I mean, Gil's obviously played under Zeus before, played with Zeus, in fact, also, the coach of Liquid. So he should be able to slot in without an issue. He should be an upgrade in firepower over Stan, but and the question is, I mean, Gambit are always great on LAN. They seem to struggle online. They're great on LAN. They could do damage here. Renegades, before iBuyPower Masters this last weekend, won the previous 2 tournaments that they played in. So they're coming, on quite a high as well. They could do damage here. Optic, again, less convincing, but again, they've got the firepower to make it work. That Group E is just insane. I mean, we could probably, take those 6 names and just stick them on a board and throw darts at them, and we might be more right than the prediction we make.
I'd say this about Group E. I think Group E isn't so insane because of the fact that there's just, it's not like you've got the top 5 teams in the world in there, but you've got the number 1 FaZe, G2, who should make it out, but can be, can slip
G2,
up,
I mean.
and then just a cluster of super dangerous tier 2 teams, super dangerous tier 2 teams, and that's the problem. Is that if FaZe slips up, okay, they're probably still getting out. If G2 slips up, they might not get out. If Liquid slips up, they're definitely not getting out here. That's the problem. Is that Gambit, Renegades, Optic are incredibly dangerous tier 2 teams. Liquid seem to be ultra good on one map. I don't think they're going to get Inferno a whole bunch, which means that it opens up the rest of their fairly weak map pool. And that's where Gambit, Renegades, and Optic can start doing damage. So Liquid, I think, is in a very, very dangerous spot here. They're really going to have to hope that the rest of the map pool can hang with Gambit, because Gambit loves, especially, they like Train. They did pretty well on it. They beat FaZe on it. they do play Nuke as well. So yeah, I think Liquid is got to be very, very careful, and G2 as well. If they have one of those tournaments, they might not make it to the out of the groups.
Yeah, also the additional random elements of playing best of ones, 5 best of ones against 5 different opponents. At least for this tournament, the teams do know the schedule of when they're playing. I mean, not like some of the Swiss system tournaments where you play a whole bunch of best of ones and don't know who your opponents are going to be until the round is over. So, I mean, they can prepare at least, so there's that. But yeah, this Group B, it's really tough to say. I kind of feel like FaZe should make it out no matter what, but who comes second and third? G2 should come second, but G2 could also lose to pretty much all of those teams if things don't go their way on the day. I mean, I think
or could top the group.
Or could top the group. That's the crazy part. I think we really the match at 2:30 in the morning will tell us a lot about how Group B is going to go. The opening match between FaZe and G2. If G2 stomp on FaZe there, then we know we've got vintage G2 on our hands and not wimpy G2 on our hands. That happens sometimes as well, where just nobody shows up and they look bad. So let's see what happens. I kind of hope they do well, actually, because I'd love to see like a G2 SK semi. That could be pretty awesome. If they do finish second in the group, that's likely if they make it through the quarterfinals. So, I mean, looking at everything there, we're likely, I'd say, to see probably an Astralis Cloud9 quarterfinal, and G2 versus
wouldn't it be Astralis Liquid? Or...
Oh yeah, you're right. It's cross bracket. You're right. So I mean, Astralis versus one of 4 basically. I'm not going to commit to saying Liquid. I can't say there. I mean, Gambit could do it, and I think it's almost likely that they will, considering the roster turmoil for Liquid recently. Don't know how disruptive that's going to be. On the other side, I mean, it could be G2 or even FaZe, depending on who wins that opening map against probably Cloud9. But going into the semi stage, I would probably think the way SK has been looking at the moment, they should make it to the final again, no matter who they play in the semis. I almost think they should win this tournament. Am I going crazy? Am I being too much of a fan of the Brazilians?
I think it's difficult to say, especially because they've only played one tournament with Bolts.
But we're still in the honeymoon window, at least. It was only a few weeks ago. It takes about a month before the honeymoon wears off, and then suddenly you're not winning anymore. I mean, it happened with Phelps. Phelps came in, they won CS Summit.
I think it's very much dependent on who tops Group B, whether SK makes it out of the semi.
So,
because I think if SK gets FaZe, I think FaZe probably loses to them. But I think if SK gets G2 and G2's playing well, I think G2 wins. So that's what I'm going to... I think odds on to win the tournament is SK and then FaZe. But I think G2 is really going to decide how it breaks out. I think if G2 plays SK in the semis, I think FaZe wins the tournament.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, cool. I'd probably go with that as well. I am thinking SK should win the tournament as far as kind of recent history's gone. When they've made lineup changes, they've won the first few tournaments that they've played in, aside from the one blip on the radar when they got in Taco and FNX, where they came second in the first one and then won the next few tournaments. But let's see how if history repeats itself or not. But either way, this tournament is just going to be off the charts exciting. It's just a shame that it's in the exact right time zone to completely wreck us in terms of sleep for the next week. So we're going to be watching lots of VODs, I think, this week because of that one. But that's coming up, guys. If you want to check out IAM Oakland, it starts at 9 o'clock with Astralis versus I forgot now who the opponent was. Cloud9, yeah? Nope. Oh, nope, yeah. Nope. Cloud9 is the second one. You're right. Nope. Sorry. Astralis versus Nip. So that's there. And if you guys have got any thoughts about who you think's going to win or who's not going to win or whatever, let us know in the comments or tweet at us on Twitter. We'll talk to you about it and then completely dismiss your opinion for our own. No, we won't do that. We're reasonable people. But yeah, I think IAM Oakland's going to be really exciting. If you just joined us and you missed Kazamir, unfortunately, he kind of got sprung on him at the last moment that he had to play an ESEA game, so we had him until 8. You can check him out on the VOD. Any last things you want to talk about, Prof?
Not really. I don't think there's any other news.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that we could probably mention, which we will talk about next week, is Blast Pro Series also coming up next weekend. That's the next tournament in 10 days' time, and that one looks super exciting as well. And their marketing's awesome, so definitely follow them on Twitter and check out the promotional videos they're doing as they're announcing the broadcast talent. Some of it's been super sharp, been really enjoyable. So check that out. From this channel's point of view, we'll be casting a little bit tomorrow night. So probably casting with Prof. Might cast with SLP. I don't know. We'll do LGDC versus Goliath, which should be an exciting game. Actually, there's a bunch of exciting games tomorrow, but they're all on at 8 p.m. So that kind of makes it a little difficult to cover all of them. But I'm probably committing to that one because that one looks like having the most potential. So we'll probably do that one. I'll check what games are on Thursday. Maybe we'll cast some stuff on Thursday. And then, of course, on Sunday, you can look out for myself and Anthrax doing some games. We're doing ESEA Sundays the last few weeks, and we'll keep doing it until the regular season is over. Other than that, I'm probably releasing another video on Friday and another interview with somebody famous and exciting on Monday. And if you missed the looking back interview with Sonic, is on the channel, and it is awesome because Sonic is awesome. Love that guy. He's he's just good, and his thinking about the game it's so interesting to talk to him about it. I mean, have you watched it yet, Prof?
I've watched most of it. I haven't finished it though.
Yeah, it's a long one. I'm not gonna lie, but in within that typical hour and a half time slot of literally everything on this channel, it seems we hit about an hour and a half, and then we go, okay, that's it. So we've hit it just over an hour and a half, yeah, and I'm going, that's it. So definitely check out the VOD if you missed Kazamir and all the chatting earlier before I had to go to his game. We'll be back next week. No prizes this week, unfortunately. Actually, I do have some, but I was too lazy to bring them out and wave them in front of the camera, so I'll bring them for the show next week. We've got some more prizes coming up from Aperture PC. This has been CSGO Deeper, sponsored by Aperture PC. I've been Extremes, and that's been Profeci as well. Follow us on Twitter, like the channel, and we'll be coming at you with more stuff in the future from the world of CSGO in South Africa and internationally, as well as bringing the best guests that we can possibly find for the show. So we're saying cheers. Any final words there, Prof?
No. Enjoy AEM Oakland.
Cool. We're going to go watch it right now. Axe out.